here's the card that I'm making the topper for, and I'm using the Couture Creations Treasured Frame cut, foil and emboss dies. They're part of their Modern Essentials collection. And here's the sets I have. So this is the Treasured Frame. It's a 3-part set. It's got this ornate outer frame, smaller inner frame, and this beautiful cut, foil and emboss key. And these are the bracket frames. So I'm going to be using, as I say, the outer one. I'm foiling on some plain blue card, and I'm using some Couture Creations silver foil. So before I get started, let me just show you how the Go Press and Foil is set up for this. So it is hot, so I'm going to just grab a silicone mat. Okay, so on my Go Press and Foil I have a thin metal shim. Okay, it's the sort of metal shim you use with your die cutting machine. And I've got it's a 5x7 300 GSM card I keep underneath it. If I'm using heavier cardstock, I might need an extra piece of this, and I've got one I keep available, cut to exactly the same size. For some card you need some more pressure. Okay, so that's what I'm doing, but you don't want too much pressure. I'll explain why. This is much easier to set up when it's cold. There we are. Right, so I'm going to leave that on the base unit to warm up. Let me just turn the camera around. So there we are, that slides into the base unit, and the red light's flashing to show that it's heating it up to temperature. So on these cut, foil and embossed dies, you've got raised surfaces that are they're quite intricate, but they have a flat top to them, and they are the foiling plate part of it. You also have a cutting edge around the outside, and then in this middle bit you've got some embossed detail. Let me try and get the camera to pick that up. There we are. So you can see this inner line here. That's an emboss and foil detail. But if your pressure's too high, that will actually cut into your card. So not too much pressure. Also, if you have too much pressure, the shine goes off the foiling, I've found. Okay, so I've got my cardstock. Let me just move this mat out of the way. And I've got my foil. So I'm going to cut a piece of foil just a little bit longer than the die, about there. I find a big pair of scissors best, cutting foil. And I tend to cut it a little bit oversize, but I actually find I waste less foil that way than cutting a piece that's nearly big enough, because then it just isn't big enough. You end up cutting more, and unless you store your cut pieces very carefully, they end up damaged and you don't end up being able to use them. So I want this a little bit narrower and a little bit shorter. So I'm just going to take that to that edge. I'm just going to put a fold line there, so I've got a straight line to cut along. Trim my foil. Got a piece of tape stuck to my scissors. And then I'm going to do the same at the edge. I'm going to make sure I'm leaving enough to do the foiling with. Yeah. should be plenty. I just want to take a little bit off the edge, and you'll see why in a moment. Let me get it straight though. Okay, just give myself a fold line to cut along. Because you don't want to find you've got at an angle as you've cut and you ended up with a piece of foil that's too narrow at one end. So that's my foil, and I will just check again that it's the right size. Okay, so that would be fine, but I want to take the middle out of my foil, so take the cardstock out of the way for a minute. Now I'm working on my glass mat, which I've made sure is free from any debris or anything that might damage my foil. You could put some paper underneath and just use scrap paper or copy paper, just to protect the underside of the foil. So I'm going to use a craft knife. I'm just going to cut round the inside of the die about 1/2 centimetre from its inner edge. Now you could do this cutting your foil into strips and laying it down instead, but I find that the strips curl up and it's quite fiddly to do that way, so it actually works out quicker to do this, and I end up with a chunk of foil that's usable that I take out the middle. It does help if you've got a nice sharp blade. This is a fairly new one. There we are. So that I shall put to one side and use later. I'm going to put it safely over there. Okay, craft knife away. Okay, and then you position the foil on your card and put your die on top. And I'm going to use some pieces of tape just in a few places to take the die and the foil down to the cardstock. It just needs to stop it sliding about when I put it on the go press. Okay. So that's going to go on top of my metal shim. So with the back of the die facing downwards, so back of the die goes onto the metal shim. So I've then got my die, my foil, shiny side down, and then the cardstock. Okay. So die, foil, shiny side down when I turn it over, and then the card. Okay, make sure that's in the middle. I'll close the lid and put it back on the base. So I'm just sliding it into the base. There, and the red flashing light has come on to show me that it's heating. So it's quite a big die this, so I'm going to leave this not to just go green once, but then I'm going to leave it a bit longer so it flashes red again and then goes green, and then I'm sure that that's had time for that big dye to heat up. Okay, so while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to get my die cutting machine out. Okay, so the Go Press has now gone back to green. Only takes maybe a minute. So I'm going to roll this through my Go Press. My Big Shot Plus. Now my Big Shot Plus, obviously it's wider than the Go Press, so I can keep this at an angle, which I like to do, because then you don't get the clonk at the straight edge of the die. Go backwards and forwards. And I'm going to just roll it again, just to make sure that has cut properly. Okay, so have a peep, see if it looks cut. Yep, that's cut. Bear with me a moment. Okay, so here this is. So I'm going to use the pick and lift just on a corner, because obviously in the middle there's no metal there. So on a corner. And then this is almost falling out, so I just literally need to turn over and just push gently, and that comes away. Just stuck at one corner. Yeah, I think it was stuck to the tape. There we are. If you do find it hasn't cut properly, try not to disturb it, and then if you think you've got enough pressure for the foiling, then you could just put it through your die cutting machine as a normal die. Make sure it's cut. If you're not sure you've had enough pressure for the foiling, add another card shim, let it warm up again and roll it. So that's the frame foiled. Okay, let me bring back my card. So on my card I've got this decorative foiling in here underneath the flowers. Let me turn it sideways. Okay, so there's options for what you do decorating the inside of your frame, depending on, you might just want a sentiment in here, you might have a picture you putting in there, but as I'm just putting die cut flowers, I wanted something in the background. So on this blue one I've used this, which is the floral wreath hot foil stamp from the Le Petit Jardin collection. Okay, there's other options. On the purple one, which is over here, on the purple one I've used the Thin Ferns hot foil stamp from the C'est La Vie collection. This is another one from the Le Petit Jardin collection, so you could use that going into the corners if you wished. So however you want to do it, but this is the one I'm using, and I'm going to do this so that the end of the hot foil stamp, the end of the flower stem, is dead centre in my card. Okay, so let me move these out of the way. Well, this is now cool enough to detach from my card. Right, I always find it easier to peel the tape from the die to the outside. Usually. Yeah, and I keep the pieces of tape to reuse for the next thing I'm doing. I'm using Frog low tack decorators masking tape for delicate surfaces. 3M do a similar decorators masking tape product for delicate surfaces. I find it very good for taping things down to card. It doesn't overly react with the heat. Doesn't leave much in the way, doesn't leave a residue on the back of the dies. Occasionally it does, and I find I can either just put a fresh piece of tape over and peel it off, and that will take it off, or just rub it away. Okay, so that's cooled down. That's waste. Okay, so I just need to check where the centre of my topper is. So I'm going to use a ruler and a pencil. Now what you could do, if you're not a measuring person, you could make one of these to use as a template, okay, and then you could fold it afterwards. Let me just see if I've got a spare one. Bear with me. Yeah, I have, from where I was experimenting. And on this one, you can actually see on the back I had 2 card chins in, and it has very nearly gone through the card where that foil and emboss line is. So what you could do is use one of these as a template and fold it so you actually find the centre in each direction. Okay, and then you can use that, put the two together and just use a straight edge. Just line them up, straight edge one way and put a mark, and then the other way, just put them next to each other, put your ruler on. Do make sure they are lined up though. And there we are. Hopefully you can see it in the lighting. There we are. Just about. Camera in. You can see I put a cross in the centre of the card. So that was a practice one anyway, and I will keep that so that I can mark future ones. And in fact, you could do that without doing the foiling on it. You could just do it without the foil and just emboss it and still use it as a template. Right, so I've got that, and then I want to position this so that the end of that stalk there, or whatever die you're using, if it needs to line up with your centre point, line that up there, get it positioned at the end of the card. Now it looks like it's going to overlap the foiling, but because the plate, the backing plate sticks out slightly past the raised edge, bring that in really close, maybe it will fix on the camera. It nearly did. There we go. So you can see the edge of the foiling plate. Let me do it the other side. The edge of the foiling plate sticks out, the back sticks out further than the front. Now to keep this in place when I put it on the go press, I'm going to use a magnet from my stamping platform. So I've got one here. It's covered in masking tape because these are neodymium magnets, and they ping together and stick to things very, very easily. Let me get its friend out. So if they're, you can see they just they grab each other. If you haven't got the masking tape on them, it's very difficult to pull them apart. And to get them apart, if you've got the masking tape, you just literally hold one down and slide the other, and they come apart. So that's what I'm going to be using. I'm going to use the one with the bigger piece of tape on it. So plenty of tape around the edge, not just a little bit, so you can get a good grip on it. And then I'm going to put that behind my hot foil stamp, and once I've put it there, I can still adjust where the hot foil stamp is going to be. And then look, it doesn't fall off. I can turn this every which way and it hangs onto it in exactly the same place. So now I need to put that on my go press. Actually, before I do, I need to cut some foil, because otherwise I won't know if my foil is the right size. So I don't think I can use the end. I think that's too narrow. But yeah, I can use that bit. So I can get, actually, no, I'll keep that bit for something else. Let me just cut a piece of foil. Because I should. Is if I do it that way, I can cut one piece of foil and use it for both ends. Just going to make sure I want that on the halfway point. Okay, so that's going to go across there. I'm going to trim the foil a bit. It's a bit too much. I'm going to take the corners off. And that helps with not getting over foiling, because the corners tend to dip down and touch the card where it's hot, and that's when you get over foiling. Just check the size of that, and I'm going to do the same with the other piece while I've got the die here, because once it goes on the go press I'm going to do both ends without taking it off again. Okay, so now I can bring my go press over. I'm going to use my silicone mat to pick this up, take it off, and say be careful because it's hot. The card tends not to retain heat so well, so you can just get that by a corner, flap it a bit, and it's safe. It's easy to handle it then. Okay, so now this, so I've still got the magnet on the back, okay? So this I'm going to put down on my go press, and I'm lining it up. So if I do it with that corner over there, you can see better. Right, so if I do it with that corner over there, line it up, I can jiggle it about, and my hot foil stamp stays attached to my card. Then I'm going to put my finger down on the hot foil stamp and slide the magnet out. Okay, and then I can put that on the base to warm up. Okay, bear with me. Okay, so I've just left that warming up, plugged into the base unit. So my hot foil stamp is now at the right temperature. And now I'm going to add my foil. Like so. I'm going to put my card back in exactly the same place as I had it when I put the hot foil stamp down. So lining up with those edges. I'm going to use a small piece of tape, got one here stuck to my mat, just to tape it at the end onto the plastic. So I'm not taping it to the black, but to the plastic edge. And then I need my double card shim that I know I need for foiling normal hot foil stamps, because that's the right amount of pressure with my die cutting machine. Okay. So that goes back on the base, so that I make sure it stays up, it comes up to temperature. Oops, sorry, the camera got a really strange angle there. slide this back in. Okay, the red light's come on. It won't need very long because I've not had it out very long, putting the foil on. But just while it comes back to temperature, I'm just going to get the die cutting machine. Okay, so the hot plate's at temperature, slide it forwards, lift it up, put it on the die cutting machine. Lines. Now, you can feel when the pressure changes when you get to your hot foil stamp. You should be able to feel it just change slightly. There it is. At that point, wind slowly. Okay, back and forth, it should be fine. So, I've got my shims, my card. Take the tape off, I'll use that again in a moment. Then I can peel my foil off. And my hot foil stamp is in exactly the right place. Okay, so to get the other end, I don't need to move this because it is just a mirror image. So I just need to put my foil on, turn the card so that I'm now foiling on that end, put the card back in exactly the same place as before, lined up with the end and the side edge. My little piece of tape. That's just so that it doesn't shift the card as I put the lid down. Shims, close the lid. Back onto the base unit, and then I'll roll that through the die cutting machine. Bear with me. Okay, so the base unit, the green light has now come on. I don't know if you can see that, but it has. I'm going to peel that off of there. Put it onto the die cutting machine and roll it again. So I've just moved the die cutting machine out of the way and put this back on my mat where you can see it. So there's my foiling. Let me just move this out of the way. So if I was batch making these, I can leave that hot foil stamp. If I make all my frames first, and then I can position my hot foil stamp and then just keep putting my frames back in the same place and keep foiling. There we are. And I can see the cross in the middle, but I can just rub that out. There we are. So there you have it, how to get things lined up, positioned exactly where you need them, and how to use the treasured frames, cut, fold and emboss dies. There we are. Thank you for watching.